Good morning. This is Katie, and I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. And it's July 31st, 2017. And I am in my office upstairs. And this morning, it's a good day. It's Monday. And I don't have a job to go to. I don't have, well, when I say I don't have, that sounds negative. I'm here in my office. There's plenty for me to do, and there's plenty for me to do here in my house. And I'm recording my video blog. I had a good weekend. I went to the park yesterday, and I played drums and seeing old friends of mine, and then some people that I haven't seen in a long time. So that was a good thing. So good thing, because I have not seen people in some people in a little while, maybe a year or so, or something like that, and trying to reconnect with people, because I've been pretty much out of loop of things. Things have happened, and life changes, and that's something I want to talk about, is things of life. My life has not been the easiest life, and I don't know why this life has been the way it has been. It has been going from one thing to the next, and some people might even call it a life of suffering, but I have managed to survive it. Even as a child, I've gone through much suffering. I grew up on the southeast side of Columbus, in a neighborhood called Southfield. My earliest memories were of the Southfield neighborhood. I was born at Grant Hospital. I remember that. I remember my nursery school. It was called Rickman's Child Care Center. It was on Woodland Avenue. And I remember my doctor's office, Dr. White, John D. White. It was on Woodland Avenue. And I remember the Y on Woodland Avenue, going to the Y with my mom, where she was a lifeguard, and I remember learning how to swim there. She taught me how to swim as a very young child, maybe about 2 or 3 years old, because the first time I jumped into water, I was at she had left me with the lady who watched small children, and I was stubborn, and I would not stay with the other children. I was not one to do that. I wanted to be with the adults and my mom. So guess what I did? I went, and I left them. I went and found my mom and the adult women, and guess what I did? The first thing I did, I jumped into the deep end. I had to be about 3 years old. Guess what I did? I jumped straight smack, came into the entrance, because the door was open to the pool, and that's where the door was open to the pool at, and I jumped straight into the deep end of the water. And I found the ladder. The ladder was right there, or the edge of the pool, and instead of, I didn't drown or nothing like that. I just grabbed onto the edge of the pool and the ladder. And by then, my mom was to the edge of the pool, and she had gotten me, because she was teaching a class and teaching people how to swim. And she grabbed me, and she pulled me out, and I got reprimanded. I never really got spanked or anything like that, because spankings really didn't work with me. And my mom told me to sit there and don't move if I was going to be there. And then later on, after that, my mom taught me how to swim. So, And I remember learning how to swim by being on the edge of the pool and kicking out and all that. And then she taught me, we went to the, neighborhood pools and stuff for swim lessons and all that. But I had already learned how to swim, but in order to get into the pools early and into the swim classes, I just had to pretend to learn how to swim because I already knew how to swim. Since early childhood. But yes, I remember the Columbus neighborhood. I remember Rickman's Child Care Center, and one of my earliest remembrances is there was a teacher there, my teacher, Miss Whittier, who I have a picture of her and being in her class. And I remember learning how to tie my shoes, and I have a picture still of being the smallest person in the class because I was 2 years old. And I know I was a very intelligent child, and my mom had to work. So they sent me to daycare early, and I was potty trained, and because I was already potty trained, I already knew how to do things. I was an old soul. I remember and I never liked too much being with other children, and I remember one memory I have so vividly is children throwing rocks at me. Picking up rocks on the playground and throwing them at me. And because they were throwing rocks at me, I went out of the gate and I left that school. I wasn't going to stay there to be abused. I left, and I said I was going to go find my granddaddy. And I was going to walk to my grandmother's house. And I knew where my grandparents' house was. It was on Fairwood Avenue. And I knew the way there. And you know what? I walked all the way down Woodland Avenue, all the way through Franklin Park. And I was on Fairwood, through the park and down Fairwood a little ways, getting ready to go down Fairwood more, when my grandfather found me. Excuse me. In his white convertible Buick, I remember it, and picked me up. Here I am, about 2-3 years old, and my granddaddy, I knew he would come for me. He always did. He always did. He came for me. He picked me up. He didn't take me back to that school, not that day, but he took me home to his house on Fairwood. And my grandfather, my granddaddy, he fixed me lunch. He sat me down and he talked to me, and he asked me what happened, and I let him know what happened. And we ate lunch, and then he put me for a nap. And Granddaddy always made things better. And then later on, he took me home when it was time, for my mom to get home. Because Granddaddy would usually pick me up from daycare, from Rick's, when he could. Because he got off work usually around 3 o'clock anyway. Because I knew Granddaddy always went into work around 5 o'clock in the morning. He worked for Armstrong Furnace Company way back in the day. It was funny because Armstrong Furnace, Granddaddy had his own bathroom and stuff down the basement of the house on Fairwood. It was on Fairwood and Kossuth, back then I thought it was a big, huge brick house, but I look at it today, and it is it's not so big. It's just a brick Cape Cod house, full basement, you know, 2 upstairs, 2 bedrooms downstairs, living room, kitchen. Excuse me. But that's one of the earliest memories of being in with other kids, you know. I remember Rick's Child Care Center. I remember being in a play and reciting the 3 little bears, the 3 bears, and being Goldilocks in a play we did about the 3 bears, and learning those lines, being Goldilocks, because I was a little golden-haired child back in the day. I had Goldilocks, so to speak. Long golden hair, and they would put my hair in Shirley Temple curls. If you ever watch the Brady Bunch and you see Cindy Brady too, my hair would go into those pigtails with the little curls at the side, you know, or 2 braids, or 2 French braids, or those little 4 plaits that people would do. And I would have the little ballies at the end, the little ballies or Bretts or something like that. And then the little, you know, the little shoes with the little socks and all that. So, and I was a little golden child. And I was a little fat child too. I was always fat, and kids would make fun of me because I was fat, and they would make fun of me because I was white or light. Adults liked it because back in the day, in the 60s, to be light complected was a good thing because of the prejudice. So the whiter you were, or looking white, you were more accepted among the elite black, and you were accepted a little bit more among white people. So, which was a sad thing, but those are whole different stories too. But it was kind of abusive with other kids, and yeah. And then I remember going to Clearfield Elementary School, and I remember that also, going to Clearfield, and kids didn't like me there because I was a fat child, and they would call me Fat Kathy. To this day, I cannot stand to be called the name Kathy because of that reason. I can't stand the name Kathy, and people who know me from young childhood still see me on the street and they call me Kathy, and that name makes me cringe. And I don't like being called Kathy. My dad still calls me Kathy. My stepdad would call me Kathy. And my mom, after a while, she quit calling me Kathy because she knew I hated the name Kathy. So before she died, she would call me, you know, she called me Kat, or she called me Katie, or she called me Lady Catherine. I love when she called me Lady Catherine. That was her name for me, Lady Catherine. I miss my mom. I do. But my mom was the only one, my biggest supporter, and then my biggest critic, and I miss her. She left in June of 13. And that's another story, too. This life, so many stories in this life. But, yes, I didn't have but few friends growing up, still in elementary school, because I was a golden child again, light complected, what they call good hair, and people would always say, you think you're pretty, you think you're this, you think you're that, but people didn't know that I did not think those things, and I did not, those weren't my thoughts. So basically in school, I just did my academics. I tried to just do well, get through school, have good grades, please my parents, so I can graduate to the next level. And that's what I did. And still, that wasn't good for, for students either, to be with peers or get along with others, because then when you were too smart, you were pretty and you were smart, and I was fat. So I was pretty, I was fat, and I was smart. So I got picked on all through elementary school. And I always thought, let me just get through this. So I had about 5 different ways of getting home from school, because I did not want to get